High on a stem, an ant bites down on a leaf vein and locks its jaws. It doesn't move again. A few days later, a pale stalk pushes out through the back of its head and rains spores onto the forest floor below. That ant was killed by something with no brain, no eyes, and no plan of its own, and it walked to the exact spot it needed to die, on purpose. So how does a fungus march an ant to its own perfect grave? And here's the part that should unsettle you. To do it, the fungus never touches the ant's mind. It starts with a single spore. It lands on a carpenter ant, sticks, and bores through the shell into the body. Then it does nothing dramatic at all. It spreads inside as thin threads, feeding on the ant from within, while the ant keeps walking, working, living like any other day. For weeks, nothing looks wrong. The ant forages. The colony trusts it. And the whole time, it is being eaten alive from the inside by something patient. Then, one day, the fungus decides it's time. The infected ant does something no healthy ant would ever do. It leaves. It abandons the colony, finds a plant, and starts to climb. It stops at a very specific height, about 25 centimeters above the ground. Not higher, not lower, because that is the exact zone of warmth and damp where the fungus grows best. Then it bites, and it doesn't bite just anywhere. 98% of the time, it clamps onto a major vein on the underside of a leaf, facing a direction set by the sun. Infected ants across a whole forest do this at roughly the same time of day, around noon, like an alarm went off in all of them at once. Our scientist tags one, follows it up the stem, leans in to watch the bite, and writes down a time that matches every other corpse in the graveyard. This is not a sick animal wandering. This is a schedule. Now you'd assume the fungus is driving all of this from the ant's brain. A parasite in the control room, steering. It isn't. And the truth is worse. When scientists looked inside the head of a manipulated ant, they found the brain almost untouched. What the fungus had wrapped itself around were the muscles, especially the muscles of the jaw. It floods them with chemicals that force them to contract and lock, bypassing the nervous system entirely. The death grip isn't a command the brain obeyed. It's a hijack the brain was never part of, which leaves one unbearable possibility. The command center is still running. The ant may still be in there. Aware. Intact. Watching its own legs carry it up a stem it would never choose to climb, feeling its own jaws clamp shut on a leaf, unable to send a single order that its body will obey. It doesn't control the mind. It just makes the mind a passenger. And everything, the climb, the height, the vein, the noon bite, serves one purpose. Days after the ant dies, the stalk erupts from its head and releases a slow rain of spores onto the trail below. Onto the next ant. And the next. The corpse isn't the end of the story. It's a trap, placed with terrible care and left waiting. The colony is not entirely helpless. Healthy ants can sometimes smell the infection early, and when they do, they grab the sick one and drag it far from the nest before the fungus can bloom. They exile their own to save the rest. The infected ant is hauled out of the only home it has ever known by the family it was still trying to help. And this has been happening for a very long time. There are fossilized leaves, 48 million years old, carved with the exact bite scars of the death grip. The same height, the same lock. A war between a fungus and an ant, running almost unchanged since before there were humans to notice it. Now turn it around and look at yourself. You like to believe you're the one in charge in there. The brain. The decider. But how much of what you did today was actually you? The craving that appeared from nowhere. The mood that dropped without a reason. The gut bacteria that quietly vote on what you feel like eating. The chemistry rising and falling behind your eyes, written by things you never agreed to and mostly cannot feel. The fungus proves the thing we don't like to say out loud. You do not need to control a mind to control a creature. You only need to control its chemistry. and something, always, is adjusting yours. The ant climbs the stem it would never choose. It bites the vein. It holds. And somewhere behind its intact, untouched eyes, it may be watching the whole thing happen, waiting for a body that no longer takes its orders. We call it a zombie, a mindless thing. But its mind was the one part the fungus left alone. And that is the part worth being afraid of.